Right, greetings all the viewers out there who do remain at this point. I am he who remains in this basic, well, we're kind of at the end, right? Wotv is in its very last legs on the global side. It's almost done, the servers are almost gone, and as such, many live, I will hear many accounts scream out in terror before they are suddenly silenced. Umbra's waxing poetically, and I do want to make a few other videos just before we get into the news updates today. But before I did, before I get into the news videos, I did want to say that I am interested in creating some more videos this week about looking back on the history that is FFB and just kind of doing a general chat and everything. But hey, at the same time, Umber's also trying to do a bunch of new content for a bunch of new games, and yeah, let's move on. This is going to be spoiler territory for those of you who don't know, and yes, I have not done much in the way of spoilery videos, because guess what? I've just been kind of busy, but this one should count. So looking into it, our first and biggest news is the new unit for the month of June 1st, which is going to be a new version of Garuza. That's right, Garuza is back and angrier and kind of more, I don't even know how I'd describe him, anime than ever? Yes, Garuza is coming back with a 100 cost dark form. And really quickly, let's break into what we can tell already from him. I mean, dark elemental character, sure, but now we can basically guarantee that he will be a magic type swordsman, which is also pretty interesting given that, X-Death is not necessarily out of the meta yet and maybe looking for a new companion. But before we get into it, let's talk about this. I do like it whenever we get a little bit of difference for, something major happening in the universe, and this is one. So defeat the many enemies that appear and get the Imawashiki sword, Masachika, the path to the Imawashiki sword will be available. Sorry, I'm getting my vowels all kinds of mixed up. As of June 1st, Sunday. So the interesting thing about this is that it is not a farmable sword. It is technically just a UR quality katana-based weapon that will be available. Also, you need to do this so that you can get the awakening materials such as the Great Dark Crystal. I'm going to say this. I'm not particularly happy to see another version of Garuza after what essentially doesn't feel too long. This is a story character, and I do concede that it kind of needs and should happen because it is a major plot point that is going on in the story right now with the sword that we've been looking for I don't know, it feels like 26 years at this point. But I respect that they essentially made it a UR quality weapon. It feels different, it feels a little bit more exciting, and it is kind of informative that, the combination of this character and sword should be particularly 1-to-1. And hey, a neat weapon skin for a bunch of other characters, so cool. Now, going back and talking about Garuza new version, first off is commander ability, which is available only for quest. Activated at the start of battle, increase magic power and critical rate, as well as light resistance for dark attribute allies for 5 turns. So this is the next of the commander abilities that is focusing on element rather than job type, which is kind of interesting. Also, the fact that it is only for quest is kind of nice for certain particular aspects and maybe new players in the game trying to catch up on certain stuff. But that commander ability should be pretty good for that kind of purpose. Now, Limit Burst, the sword spirit that leads to darkness. Increase magic damage for self for 3 turns and reduce dark resistance of targets in range for 3 turns. Magical damage extra large with a chance of don't act effect for 3 turns. So it's a large AoE. It doesn't have a particularly high range away from him, although it does obviously have the potential of catching multiple enemies in it. Reducing dark resistance is pretty neat. Does speak that it should be a good amplifier for more recent dark elemental characters. Maybe Elena will work quite well with this guy as well, even being a different damage type, because Elena is generally pretty strong still at the moment. And, you know, X-Death should have some good crossover since both of them are elementally compatible and damage type compatible, so that's pretty interesting there. But the don't act, it will be curious to see how high the percentage of this activating is. It does feel like some of the time when you see this sort of thing that maybe not necessarily the highest if he is already a high damage dealer, but that being said, I mean, it just might actually be good enough, so we'll see. Now, the other ability in his preview removes the effect of reducing damage taken the wider the attack range of the target within range. Magic dependent damage large, and that is easier to hit after destroying magic barrier. It reduces healing power for 3 turns and spikes self for 2 turns. So reading across this, first off, the effect that we will see here is it is another attack-based ability. It is in the bigger plus form. Does have generally nice, pretty flexible range on that, which is good. So removing wider AoE attack protection is good. It does seem like he will be an AoE attacker, an AoE magic attacker, I should say. We also can note that it is a large damage dealer that destroys barriers, so he should be pretty effective at dealing magic damage and potentially enabling other magic damage dealers of getting through barriers, which is particularly pretty valuable. Reducing healing power is almost essential right now, given how many characters out there are using healing abilities, so that should be pretty good. And last but not least, the spike effect. Now, spike isn't particularly that interesting. I don't think as a mechanic it has really shined that strongly. It's not terrible per se, but it is definitely kind of on the more underwhelming features that have been added to the game within about 1 or 2 years as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, spike on here is a nice addition, but it feels like his abilities are already doing enough. So taking away large scale magic damage dealer with the dark element that supports dark based characters, that has a lot of nifty little effects. High Faith should allow him to do some status effects, and maybe even has some extra status effects in his hit. As for his master ability, we are looking at reaction block rate of 20, critical rate of 20, and AoE attack penetration, or AoE resistance penetration rate of 20. So a high damage dealer. It'll be interesting to see where he actually ends up in the meta. Been lots of light and dark characters of late of note, so what his particular party, or whether he will just be shoved in with Katana, I'm not too terribly sure on that. I don't think that this is a character that will just get shoved in with the other Katana characters. I think there's a pretty good chance that he does find a more unique team, although, you know, Karsha probably is in there somewhere, because of course Karsha is just great with every character. He will be in the Katana group, which isn't too terribly surprising there. Month of June logins are basically what you expect. No worrying signs, at least for the moment. Guild battle map will be on a crystal based map. Don't know if it will really support gunners too terribly much, but will focus on dark and Katana as a advantageous. And of course, the Phantom Days will be taking place at the same time that Gobel is having a funeral, so tra-la-la-la-la for what it is worth. I have to say, I mean, like, Garuza is just not my favorite character and not the most interesting character, so it does make sense that he would be the one to end up with that demonic sword. And I'm not particularly that angry about it, but nor am I going to be rushing to do any polls for this character once he is out and available. It's just not really personally that interesting for me. And I'm more interested in the resolution of the story or the rumored, and this is the thing that I will go out on this video, the rumored another season 4, which would be happening relatively soon, starting in the summer and going into the fall as it has in previous seasons. That would be more exciting to me anyway, and also more limited. So there you go, that is the update such as it is. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll try and do a few more videos before the funeral service weekend. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Later.